The galaxy remembered Earth as nothing more than a forgotten ember. The human colonies had scattered long ago, their fleets lost, their worlds burned in endless wars. To most alien empires, humanity was a cautionary tale. Too reckless, too bold, too fragile to survive in the long shadow of greater powers. But then it happened. A ship appeared at the very edge of Imperial space. It was not on any registry. No beacon, no code, no record of construction. It looked a human. And yet, it was not like any human ship ever seen before. Imperial scouts were the first to encounter it. They expected an old war relic, maybe a transport or cruiser limping through the void. But when their scanners touched the hull, the readings went wild. The ship was layered in alloys no database could identify, its energy core pulsing like a star trapped inside metal. Even worse, the vessel carried weapons far beyond the Empire's understanding. The scouts fled. No battle, no warning shots. They ran, broadcasting their findings back to their commanders. Within hours, the High Council of the Empire gathered. They projected the blurred scan across their chamber, the image of a massive ship with sharp lines, black as the void itself, and engines that burned like white suns. "This vessel carries the signature of human design," one elder hissed. "But it is impossible. Humanity's fleets were destroyed centuries ago." "Impossible does not matter," another answered coldly. "The ship exists, and it reappears in our space." The council feared nothing more than the unknown. Armies they could crush. Revolts they could burn. But a mystery, something that defied their logic, this terrified them. Meanwhile, aboard the ship, silence filled the long corridors. The vessel was named Vanguard Eternum. No one outside had heard that name for over 200 years. Once, it had been humanity's greatest hope, a deep space project meant to leap further than any empire dared. It vanished during its maiden voyage, swallowed by the black of uncharted space. To the galaxy, it was gone forever. Now, it was back. The crew was awake again. They walked the halls like ghosts, men and women who had left Earth long ago, now staring at stars that had moved on without them. Time had bent differently for them. What felt like only a generation aboard their ship had been centuries outside. Humanity, as they remembered it, was gone. And so, the ship's captain stood at the bridge window, watching the endless stars. His name was Captain Elias Rourke. He was tall, his hair streaked with silver, though his face looked young by Imperial standards. His voice was low but carried weight. "They're watching us," he said. His officers nodded. Every sensor on the ship had already detected the Empire's scouts. "They'll send more." "What do we do, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Mara, her sharp eyes never leaving the tactical screen. "We show them," Rourke said simply. The crew did not understand, not fully. But the ship did. The Vanguard Eternum was no ordinary craft. It carried weapons forged from human desperation, technology born in the darkest days when humanity realized survival meant becoming predators. Entire civilizations had laughed at humans once. Now, the weapons hidden within the ship could silence those laughs forever. The Empire's fleet arrived 3 days later. Dozens of warships, sleek and armored, engines glowing like emerald fire. They surrounded the lone human vessel, confident in their numbers. "Unknown ship," the Imperial commander's voice echoed through the comms, cold and commanding. "Identify yourself, or be destroyed." The bridge of the Vanguard was quiet. The crew looked at Captain Rourke. He simply leaned forward, his hand brushing across the console. "This is Captain Elias Rourke of the human vessel Vanguard Eternum," he said calmly. His voice carried no fear. "We do not yield. We do not surrender." Laughter erupted across the Imperial channels. The aliens thought it a joke, a single ancient ship daring to defy an entire fleet. They prepared their weapons, confident this would be a swift execution. But then it happened again. The human ship's hull shifted. Plates of black metal opened like wings, revealing lines of fire that pulsed brighter than suns. Energy signatures screamed across every scanner, readings spiking into ranges the Empire had never seen before. Weapons that should not exist unfolded in silence, their barrels humming with power. Every alien officer froze. This was not a relic. This was not a derelict. This was something beyond them. The Imperial commander tried to give the order to fire. But before he could, one of his ships vanished in a silent flash. No beam, no missile. Just gone. The Vanguard Eternum had fired once. And a warship ceased to exist. On the bridge of the Vanguard, no one spoke. The humans simply watched. Captain Rourke's eyes were cold. "Let them decide," he whispered. "Fight us, or learn what humanity has become." The galaxy had thought Earth was gone. But Earth had returned, not as prey, not as victims, but armed with something far greater than the Empire's comprehension. And this was only the beginning. The Empire had never known fear like this. One ship, just one, had erased an entire warship without leaving even wreckage behind. No explosion, no debris. Just absence, as if reality itself had been torn open. The remaining Imperial fleet hesitated. Their commanders barked orders, demanding formation, demanding retaliation. But hesitation spread like a sickness. Every captain asked the same question in their hearts. What are we facing? On the bridge of the Vanguard Eternum, the human crew was silent, their eyes fixed on the enemy ships outside. The glowing stars reflected off their steel walls as the tactical screens filled with red markers, dozens of enemy vessels circling them like predators. Yet the humans did not look afraid. Captain Elias Rourke leaned back in his chair, his fingers resting on the armrest as if this was nothing more than another drill. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. "They don't understand yet," he murmured. Lieutenant Mara's sharp eyes flicked to him. "Should we show them more?" Rourke's lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. "Not yet. Let them make the first mistake." Outside, the Imperial commander finally regained his nerve. His ship, larger than the rest, moved forward. "Human vessel," the commander's voice thundered across the comms. "You are trespassing in Imperial space. Your technology belongs to us. Surrender your ship, or face destruction." The bridge crew of the Vanguard exchanged glances. They had heard threats before. Centuries ago, other empires had said the same words. Back then, humanity was weak. Back then, humans had lost. But not now. Captain Rourke leaned closer to the comms and answered in a voice as sharp as steel. "We are not trespassers. We are returning." The Imperial commander sneered. "You return to nothing. Your kind is dust. And soon, your ship will be as well." The order was given. Dozens of enemy ships fired at once. Beams of energy cut through the void. Missiles streaked toward the Vanguard. The entire battlefield lit up in furious color, as though 100 suns had been born. The human crew braced themselves. The ship did not. The Vanguard Eternum's hull shimmered. The black plates rippled with strange light, bending space around them. Weapons that should have torn them apart never touched them. Missiles vanished into distortions, swallowed by folds in reality. Energy beams curved, bent, and disappeared as if the ship itself refused to be hit. Inside the Imperial flagship, officers shouted in panic. "Our weapons! They're missing. The ship is distorting space." "Keep firing," the commander roared, though doubt was already creeping into his voice. The Vanguard did not move. It did not dodge. It simply stood in place, letting the storm of fire wash over it like rain against stone. When the barrage ended, the human ship remained untouched. Silent. Waiting. On the bridge, Captain Rourke finally spoke. "Now," he said softly. Lieutenant Mara's fingers danced across her console. The Vanguard answered with a soundless flash. A spear of white light erupted from the ship's core, faster than thought, striking another Imperial cruiser. The enemy ship didn't explode, it unraveled. Metal, fire, and crew dissolved into nothing. One moment a warship existed. The next, only empty space. The Imperial fleet broke. Ships pulled back, scattering in every direction, their formations shattered. Panic echoed across comms. Some screamed orders, others begged for retreat. Fear had become stronger than duty. But the vanguard did not chase. Instead, Captain Rourke gave a quiet command. Transmit. The ship's systems obeyed. Across the stars, a message pulsed outward. A human signal. Clear. Defiant. To all who hear this, humanity is not gone. We return. We remember. The message spread like fire through dry grass. It leapt across communication relays, across border stations, across hidden outposts. Alien merchants heard it. Soldiers heard it. Even those who once fought against humanity heard it. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembled with a single thought. The humans are back. Back on the Imperial capital world, the Council was in chaos. Reports screamed across their halls, entire fleets broken by one ship, a technology beyond comprehension, a name whispered like a curse, Vanguard Eternum. One elder slammed his claws against the table. If humanity has returned with this power, our empire is in danger. Another, older still, shook his head. Not danger. Extinction. But not all were afraid. Some saw opportunity. If we can take the ship, its secrets will be ours, one counselor whispered greedily. Imagine, an empire armed with such weapons. None could stand against us. Thus, the decision was made. The empire would send everything. Not scouts. Not border fleets. An armada. Hundreds of warships, thousands of soldiers. They would take the Vanguard Eternum by force. And yet, even as they prepared for war, whispers spread in the dark corners of the galaxy. Old races stirred. Forgotten enemies listened. Small worlds remembered the days when humans had fought beside them, or against them. For some, the message was a warning. For others, it was a promise. And for humanity's enemies, it was a nightmare reborn. The Empire's pride was wounded. To them, one ship should have been nothing. A relic. A shadow. Yet the Vanguard Eternum had shattered their warships and escaped without a scratch. The High Council could not let this insult stand. So they gathered an armada. From every corner of the Empire, ships were recalled. Battlecruisers, dreadnoughts, carriers, hundreds of vessels assembled into the largest force the Empire had deployed in a century. The fleet blotted out the stars as it moved, engines burning bright in the void. To any other enemy, it would have been unstoppable. But the humans were not any other enemy. On board the Vanguard, the crew watched the incoming signals. Screens glowed red as markers filled the maps. The numbers were impossible. The Empire was not sending a fleet to fight them, they were sending a fleet to erase them. Lieutenant Mara's jaw tightened. That's not a patrol, Captain. That's a war meant for us. Captain Rourke stood at the center of the bridge, silent for a long moment. His eyes traced the glowing swarm of enemy ships. Then, finally, he said, "Good. Let them come." The crew did not flinch. They had trained for this. They had prepared. For generations aboard the Vanguard, their ancestors had lived with one mission, to survive and to return. And now, at last, that return was here. As the armada closed in, the Empire tried again to speak. A booming voice filled the comms, dripping with arrogance. "Human vessel, this is your final chance. Power down your ship. Surrender. Resist, and your people will be exterminated once more." The crew exchanged glances. Some felt anger burn in their chests. Others laughed bitterly. The Empire spoke as if humans had not already faced extermination, and endured. Rourke answered in a calm voice. "You call yourselves conquerors. But we are what remains after empires fall. We are humanity. If you want this ship, come and take it." The Empire's answer was fire. The armada surged forward, weapons flashing like suns, missiles flooding the void. The black of space lit up with fury. The fleet unleashed destruction so great it could have glassed an entire planet. The Vanguard Eternum did not flee. The ship unfolded. Its black hull split into segments, glowing with deep blue lines. Its engines pulsed like beating hearts. Strange light twisted around it, bending space, folding time. The storm of weapons struck, and vanished. Energy collapsed against invisible walls, missiles disintegrated in white sparks, beams split apart before touching the ship. The Vanguard became an island in the middle of a hurricane. Then it struck back. A single shot erupted from its core. White fire leapt across the void and carved through 5 enemy cruisers in a line, slicing them open as though they were made of paper. The Empire roared in response, their fleet swarming like predators. Dozens circled the Vanguard, trying to flank it, trying to break its defenses with overwhelming numbers. But the ship moved differently. It did not turn like a normal vessel. It folded. One moment it was in the center of the fleet. The next, it was above them, its weapons humming. The crew felt the space around them twist, as if the universe itself obeyed their ship. "Fire at will," Rourke commanded. The Vanguard answered with silence and light. Pulse cannons cut through battleships. Missiles that bent around shields detonated inside enemy hulls. Even the largest dreadnoughts, proud symbols of the Empire, fell burning into the void. But the battle was not easy. The Empire's numbers were vast. 4 every ship destroyed, 10 more pressed forward. The humans were outnumbered beyond reason. On the bridge, alarms flashed. Mara reported, "Shields holding, but power draw is climbing. If this keeps up, we'll adapt," Rourke said firmly. His voice carried no fear, only certainty. The crew obeyed without question. They had lived their entire lives inside the ship, carrying the weight of their lost people. To them, this battle was not survival. It was justice. As the battle raged, messages spread across the galaxy. Other species tuned in to Imperial frequencies, listening to the impossible. One ship against hundreds. One ship holding the line. Some laughed, thinking it was propaganda. Others trembled, because they remembered. Long ago, humans had been underestimated too. Long ago, they had faced extinction and clawed their way back. And now, with the Vanguard Eternum, they were doing it again. Hours passed. The void was littered with wreckage. Dozens of Imperial ships burned, their twisted remains drifting like shattered bones. But still the Armada pressed on. Still they sought to drown the humans in numbers. On the bridge, Mara's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, their flagship is moving in." The view screen focused on it, a massive vessel, larger than any the humans had yet faced. A ship designed to terrify whole civilizations, its hull engraved with the mark of the Empire. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Then that's where this ends. The crew understood. They shifted weapons, recalibrated systems, preparing for the strike. The Empire wanted to crush the last ember of humanity. But the ember had become fire. And when fire spreads, it consumes everything. The Imperial flagship loomed in the void like a floating fortress. It was vast, larger than a city, bristling with weapons that glowed like molten suns. Its hull was layered in armor thicker than mountains, and within its core pulsed a reactor that could power entire star systems. To the Empire, this ship was not just a weapon. It was a symbol. And now, it was aimed at the Vanguard Eternum. The human crew stood silent as the image filled their screens. Some clenched their fists. Others felt the weight of what was coming. The rest of the fleet had been dangerous. But this was a monster built to end civilizations. "Captain," Lieutenant Mara said quietly, her voice steady though her eyes burned, "that ship alone could destroy a world." Rourke nodded slowly. His gaze never left the screen. "Then we won't let it." The Imperial commander's voice thundered across the comms, dripping with hatred. "Human captain, you have tested our patience. You have destroyed our fleet. But now you face the heart of the Empire. Your ship, your crew, and your name will vanish here." The crew of the Vanguard listened in silence. Then Captain Rourke leaned forward, his face calm but unyielding. "You built that ship to frighten the galaxy," he said. "But we are from Earth. We were born on a death world. Fear doesn't work on us." The comms cut. The battle began. The flagship's cannons opened first. Massive beams of energy erupted, bright enough to blind. They tore through the void like rivers of fire, each one powerful enough to shatter a moon. The Vanguard's shields flared, bending space, struggling under the impact. "Shields holding," Mara reported, "but we can't take many more hits like that." "Then we won't," Rourke said. "Target their engines." The Vanguard shifted, space bending around it like water. It appeared at the flagship's flank, weapons unfolding. A lance of white fire speared across the void, striking the enemy's engines. The explosion shook even the human screens. But the flagship endured. Its armor absorbed the strike, glowing red but unbroken. It turned slowly, like a beast refusing to die. The humans tried again. Another volley. Another burst of white fire. This time, parts of the flagship's outer hull ripped free, spinning into space. Still, the massive ship kept coming. "Captain, they're powering something," Mara warned. Her hands flew over the console, her voice tight. Energy built up, enormous. "It's not a cannon. It's..." The flagship fired. A wave of force tore through the void. Not a beam. Not a missile. A shockwave of raw energy, expanding outward like a star going nova. It smashed into the Vanguard. The ship groaned. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered across the bridge. Crew were thrown against consoles as the shields strained to their limit. For the first time, the humans felt the weight of a true hit. "We've lost secondary power on Deck 7, an officer shouted. "Stabilize." Rourke barked, gripping the armrest. His face was stone. "We've been through worse." The crew steadied themselves. They were bloodied, but not broken. "Target their weapon core," Rourke ordered. The Vanguard pulsed with energy, charging weapons to full capacity. The ship's hull glowed brighter than ever, white lines burning like fire veins across its frame. The crew held their breath. Fire! The strike cut across space, a blinding column of power aimed at the flagship's heart. The impact tore through its shields, piercing deep into its armored shell. A section of the massive ship erupted, debris flying outward in every direction. But still, it did not fall. The Imperial flagship turned, engines burning hotter, its own weapons charging for another catastrophic strike. On the bridge of the Vanguard, tension gripped every officer. They were powerful, but the enemy was colossal. "Captain," Mara said, her voice quieter now, "if they fire that weapon again, our shields won't hold." The bridge fell silent. Everyone looked at Rourke. He stood slowly, his eyes locked on the giant warship outside. His voice was steady, calm, the kind of voice that carried both certainty and defiance. "Then we end this first." He gave the order no human had spoken in centuries. "Prepare the arc core." The crew froze. Some paled. Others swallowed hard. The arc core was not a weapon, it was humanity's last secret. It had been designed not to kill, but to protect humanity at any cost. Activating it meant tearing open the laws of reality itself. Mara's eyes widened, but she didn't argue. She only nodded. Arc core charging. The Vanguard began to transform. Its hull split wider, glowing brighter than a sun. Space bent violently around it, pulling light into spirals, twisting stars into strange shapes. The enemy flagship hesitated as its scanners went blind, unable to read what the human ship was becoming. On the Imperial bridge, officers shouted in fear. "Unknown energy surge. Readings are off the scale. Commander, what are they doing?" The commander's voice shook for the first time. "No, it can't be." Back on the Vanguard, Captain Rourke spoke softly, almost to himself. "You wanted to erase us. Instead, You will remember us. The Ark core unleashed its power. A beam of pure reality tore forward, striking the Imperial flagship with the force of a collapsing star. The colossal ship screamed under the impact. Its shields shattered. Its armor cracked. And then, slowly, agonizingly, the Empire's symbol of power broke apart. The flagship was gone. The void was silent. The Vanguard Eternum floated alone, battered but unbroken, surrounded by the wreckage of a fleet meant to erase it. And across the galaxy, the story spread. The humans had not only survived. They had destroyed the strongest weapon of the Empire. The galaxy shook with the news. The Empire's flagship, the pride of its fleets, the terror of its enemies, was gone. Destroyed by a single human vessel thought lost for centuries. Rumors spread faster than light, whispered in trading hubs, in pirate dens, in royal courts. The humans have returned. One ship destroyed an armada. The Empire is not invincible. For some, it was a spark of hope. For others, it was the beginning of panic. On board the Vanguard Eternum, the crew worked in silence, repairing what damage they could. The Ark core had saved them, but the price was heavy. The ship's systems groaned, power reserves strained to their limits. It was clear, the Vanguard was strong, but not limitless. Lieutenant Mara stood at her console, exhaustion in her eyes. We pushed the Ark core too far. If we use it again without recovery, the ship might tear itself apart. Rourke nodded, his jaw tight. He had known this risk. The Ark core was not a weapon to be used often. It was humanity's final card. And now, the galaxy knew it existed. They'll come again, Mara added. Stronger next time. The Empire can't allow this kind of humiliation. Rourke looked out at the wreckage drifting in space. Then we make sure the galaxy sees what we can do before they bury us. And the galaxy was watching. Across neutral worlds, alien leaders debated furiously. Some wanted to reach out to the humans. Others warned that siding with them meant war with the Empire. Pirates and mercenaries listened too, dreaming of human weapons they could steal. Old enemies of Earth remembered the wars of the past and wondered if the return of humans meant vengeance. But perhaps the most dangerous reaction came from within the Empire itself. In secret chambers, the Council raged. The destruction of their flagship was not just a loss of military power, it was shame. The Empire thrived on fear. If fear broke, control would follow. One counselor hissed, "If one ship can do this, what if there are more?" Another snarled, "Impossible. Humanity is scattered and broken." Yet doubt hung heavy in the air. So the Empire made its decision. They would crush the Vanguard no matter the cost. Armies would be summoned. Alliances bought with blood and gold. Every resource would be thrown into the hunt for the last human warship. Meanwhile, the Vanguard traveled through deep space, searching. They could not hide forever. They needed allies, safe harbors, places to repair and rebuild. But everywhere they went, they felt the eyes of the galaxy upon them. On one distant world, they found welcome. The Talari, a small species once enslaved by the Empire, greeted the humans as legends. The Talari had long told stories of Earth warriors who had once fought beside them, centuries ago. "You are real," a Talari elder whispered when Captain Rourke stood before her. "Our ancestors spoke of you, but we thought it myth. The humans who would rise again when the galaxy was in chains." Her people offered food, shelter, and resources. But with their kindness came fear. "The Empire will come here if they know you are among us," the elder warned. Rourke bowed his head. "We will not let your people suffer for us. But if the Empire comes, they will see what it means to stand against humanity." And come they did. Not long after, the skies above Talari Prime burned with Imperial ships. The Empire had traced the Vanguard, and they descended with fury. The Talari trembled, powerless against the might of the fleet. But before fear consumed them, they looked up, and saw the black shape of the Vanguard Eternum rise above their world. On the bridge, Mara's voice was sharp. "Captain, They've brought another fleet. Dozens of warships. Rourke's eyes narrowed. Then let's remind them what happens when they threaten the innocent. The battle began once more. Imperial ships rained fire upon the planet, but the vanguard moved like a predator unleashed. Its weapons sang, tearing through enemy cruisers. White fire burned across the void, and every strike of the human ship sent fear through the Imperial ranks. The Talari watched from the surface, their skies alight with destruction. For the first time in living memory, the Empire's fleets did not look like gods. They looked like prey. But the fight was brutal. The vanguard could not stay untouched forever. Enemy beams tore at its shields, rocking the ship with each impact. Alarms echoed across the bridge. Shields at 60%. Mara called out. Power grid unstable. Hold, Rourke commanded, his voice iron. Hold the line. And they did. Hours later, the void was filled with wreckage once again. The Imperial fleet was broken, retreating in shame. The Talari world was scarred but unbowed. And the humans had stood tall. When the battle was over, the Talari gathered before Rourke and his crew. The Elder's voice trembled with awe. You are not myths, she said. You are the fire in the dark. If the galaxy did not believe before, they will now. And she was right. The Empire's defeat above Talari Prime was not just a battle. It was a message. Across the stars, billions now whispered the same truth: humanity had returned. And with them came war. The Empire fleets gathered in the shadow of the twin suns, a storm of steel and plasma waiting for the human ship to make its move. Admiral Kaler stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship, his claws tapping against the control panel. He had never felt this kind of fear before, not even when facing rival empires. But this was different. The humans had returned from the dead, and they carried something no one in the galaxy understood. Admiral, one of his officers whispered, the Earth ship is moving. Across the void, the vanished ship glided forward. It did not lurch, it did not ignite its engines in bright flame. It moved like a shadow cutting through the stars. Its hull shimmered with strange patterns, as if it were bending light itself. The alien crews whispered prayers, some begging their gods for protection, others demanding that their admiral retreat before it was too late. Kaler clenched his jaw. Retreat was impossible. The Empire had called the humans extinct for centuries. To flee now would mean shame that would stain his bloodline forever. The humans opened a channel. A voice, deep and calm, echoed across every ship in the fleet. This is Captain Arden of the Terran vessel Oblivion's Wrath. You stand in our path. Move, or be removed. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that pressed on every soldier's chest. Some of the younger crew felt their throats tighten, as if the humans were not speaking words but truth itself. Kaler's mandibles twitched. Humans! He spat into the calm. You cannot frighten the Empire. Fire! The command lit the darkness. Hundreds of plasma bolts and rail slugs roared forward, a wall of destruction that had reduced entire civilizations to dust. But the human ship did not dodge. It did not evade. Instead, the strange shimmering hull pulsed once, and the weapons vanished. Not exploded. Not blocked. Simply vanished. On the scanners, the readings were impossible. The entire barrage had been swallowed into nothingness, erased as if the void itself had eaten it. The bridge of Kaler's ship fell silent. Officers stared at their screens, eyes wide, unable to explain what had just happened. Some whispered, they control reality itself. Then the human ship fired. It was not plasma, nor rail slugs, nor missiles. It was a single beam of white light, brighter than any star. It cut through one of the Empire's dreadnoughts like paper. There was no explosion. The massive warship simply ceased to exist, erased from space, leaving only silence where a proud vessel had once floated. Panic ripped through the Imperial fleet. Captains shouted orders, crews screamed, some abandoning their stations. One by one, ships tried to retreat, but the human ship was already moving again. It was fast. Too fast. Kaler slammed his fist against the console. "Stand and fight," he roared, though his voice shook with fear. But in his heart he knew. This was not a battle. This was punishment. The Oblivion's wrath did not speak again. It did not taunt, it did not rage. It simply erased. One beam, one ship gone. Another, gone. Each strike was a silent execution, carried out with cold precision. And yet, it was not random. Kaler realized the humans were not destroying everything. They were targeting command ships, carriers and dreadnoughts, striking at the backbone of the fleet, crippling the Empire without wasting fire on the smaller vessels. It was as if they were showing mercy, or perhaps strategy. Within minutes, the proud armada of the Empire was shattered. Survivors fled into the dark, their formations broken, their courage burned away. Kaler's flagship drifted among the ruins. His officers were pale, trembling, unable to even raise their weapons. He stared at the human ship on the screen, its strange hull still glowing faintly. "Why?" he whispered to himself. "Why did you return?" As if in answer, the human ship sent one final transmission. "Because the galaxy forgot us. And now, it will remember." The transmission ended. The Oblivion's wrath turned slowly and vanished into the void, its form bending and melting into the darkness until it was gone. But the silence it left behind was louder than any explosion. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt powerless. And across the stars, whispers began to spread like wildfire. The humans had returned. And they were unstoppable. The galaxy trembled. News of the vanished Earthships' return spread faster than light itself. Across empires, across colonies, across hidden strongholds, one name passed from mouth to mouth like fire through dry grass: humanity. Admiral Kaler's broken fleet limped back to the Imperial capital, half-burned and humiliated. He expected to be executed for his failure. But instead, he found the Emperor himself waiting, not with rage, but with fear in his eyes. "They erased ships," Kaler whispered, bowing low. "They wield weapons that should not exist. Entire dreadnoughts, gone, without wreckage. My lord, they are beyond comprehension." The Emperor's face was pale. He had seen the recordings, the white beam that devoured reality itself. He knew the whispers were true. Humanity had not just advanced. They had changed. Across the void, the human vessel Oblivion's wrath did not vanish into hiding. It moved deliberately, system to system, appearing without warning. But unlike the Empire's assumption, it did not destroy everything it saw. Instead, it left behind messages. In the ruins of a pirate base, a beacon pulsed with human code: balance must return. On a slave world, where billions cried out for freedom, the human ship struck down the overseer fleets and broadcast one phrase: chains will be broken. Even in neutral territories, it appeared like a shadow and left one chilling reminder: we have not forgotten. The galaxy was watching, and it was terrified. In desperation, the Empire gathered what was left of its armada. Thousands of ships, scraped together from every corner, united for one last stand. They would face the humans not for victory, but for survival. On the edge of a dying star, they waited. And the Oblivion's wrath came. The human ship emerged from the void, its hull shifting like liquid metal, bending light around itself. It did not bring a fleet. It came alone. Admiral Kaler's voice cracked as he opened the channel. "Humans, what do you want? Why return now, after centuries of silence?" For a long moment, there was nothing. Only static. Then the human voice answered, calm but cold. "You called us extinct. You thought Earth was ashes. You built your empire on lies, on stolen worlds, on blood. But we never died. We endured." Kaler swallowed hard. "If you mean to destroy us, then finish it. Wipe us away, and be done." The voice grew sharper. "Destruction is not our goal. Correction is." Before anyone could answer, the human ship fired, but not at the fleet. Instead, beams of impossible light lanced into the dying star itself. The sun groaned, its surface rippling, as if the humans had reached into its heart and twisted it. Panic spread through the armada. Ships scrambled, commanders screamed. The star was destabilizing. If it collapsed, the entire system, and every ship in it, would be gone. Kaler gasped. You would destroy yourselves too? But the humans were not afraid. Their ship stood firm, untouched, as if protected by something far beyond shields or armor. The human voice came one last time, echoing in every ear, in every language. The galaxy must remember balance. We were guardians once. We will be again. Oppression ends here. Learn, or vanish. The star flared. Light consumed everything. Imperial ships broke apart like toys, their screams lost in the roar of burning plasma. Kaler closed his eyes, certain this was the end. But when he opened them, he was still alive. His ship floated in the void, scarred but intact. Around him, only a fraction of the fleet remained. The rest were gone, erased with the collapsing star. The human vessel hovered before them, untouched, silent. Then, like smoke in the wind, it faded back into the darkness and was gone. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Kaler whispered the truth that all survivors now knew. They spared us, to spread the message. And spread it they did. Across the galaxy, the tale of the Oblivion's wrath became a warning. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as something else entirely. The forgotten guardians. The Deathworlders who endured. The force that even empires must fear. The galaxy would never forget again.